In your health headlines, some good news and bad news tonight when it comes to the obesity epidemic here in the U.S. While it continues to be a serious problem, with 42% of Americans projected to be obese by the year 2030, there are some signs that some things are changing. Tonight, Dr. Mitchel Goldman from UCSD is here now to talk more about all this. Dr. G, thanks for being here.
Always good to be here, Kathleen.
So at this point in the game, what's really influencing the obesity epidemic here in the U.S.?
Well, people in the U.S. are actually getting a little bit smarter. The most important things that we've found over the last 10 years is we're drinking less sugary drinks and more bottled water, and that's actually really good, and is actually keeping the obesity rate falling down a little bit. We're also eating more fruits and vegetables and more nuts and whole grains, and so less processed foods and less potatoes. But the problem is the obesity rate is still high. 5% of men, 10% of women, and the most important figure is 17% of teenagers are obese.
That is an alarming statistic indeed. So what are the long-term effects of obesity? Why should we really see this as so problematic, especially for like a teen getting obese so young?
Well, a study was just reported in this week's New England Journal of Medicine where they followed 2.3 million teenagers in Israel for 40 years. And what they found out is that when those teenagers became middle-aged adults in their 40s and 50s, they were more likely to die from cardiovascular disease. And so what happens is when you're an obese teenager, it affects your blood pressure, it affects your cholesterol, and that actually harms your heart muscle as well as the blood vessels in the heart, and it makes you much more likely to die from cardiovascular disease. So that's the key problem. Even though most adults are eating better, teens are still obese and they're still not eating better, and that's what's going to become a major health problem in the coming years.
Well, let's talk about decreasing the obesity rates then, because it kind of reads like a no-brainer list with healthy eating topping the list. Why are these simple things so challenging for us to master?
You know, it's just so difficult to change your lifestyle and diet, but healthy eating is so important. And the simple things we could do is just try to stop eating a lot of high fructose corn syrup, which is present in processed foods and sugary drinks and sodas and candies. And so if we try to limit that, we're going to go really far. Also, we always have to remember calories in, calories out. So every week we talk about the benefits of exercise. It can be walking, it can be riding your bicycle, it can be jogging, anything. It can just be climbing upstairs. But the more exercise we do, the better we're going to become in so many ways besides just obesity.
What about weighing exercise versus diet? Because there have been some recent studies announcing, saying that it really is more important about what you eat than how much you exercise.
It is, and especially from cardiovascular or heart standpoint, you don't have to be a crazy exercise person going for hours a day at the gym. Really, the American Heart Association says you really only need to do about 20 minutes 3 to 4 times a week in order to get your heart healthy. And so that's why eating is important. But if you are going to eat a little bit more, you can actually counteract the eating more by exercising more. And so there's so many simple things we can do. Taking walks after dinner, parking your car a little bit farther from where you're going, walking upstairs instead of taking the elevator.
All right.
But there's so many things we can do.
All right, little changes that'll make a big difference. Dr. G, thank you.
Always good to be here, Kathleen.